So in this video I'm just going to explain how you're able to interact with any of the objects in the scene, whether it be mostly it was just picking them up, or whenever it was with the floor puzzle, it was interacting with the tiles and changing the color of the tiles, but picking up the candles or picking up the skulls and setting them down. And so just go ahead and show you those scripts real quick. So how I interacted with anything was with this ray shooter operator. And there's kind of a lot to it. I've already commented a lot of it, so hopefully it'll go more quickly. But you can see my variables. I've got a float that is going to be the radius. I got a camera object for my camera, and I've got an operating range, which is how far you can interact with an object. And I'll explain the radius in a little bit. So at the start, we go ahead and get the camera component that this script is, whatever game object the script is attached to, it goes ahead and grabs the camera from that game object, because we're putting this on a first-person controller, so there's got to be a camera on there so that they can see how they're walking around the scene. And so on each update, we check to see if the mouse got pressed, the primary button on the mouse, which is left mouse button. And then we're going to find the middle of the screen. So you make a new vector 3, and you just set it to the center of the screen, which is the width, the camera's width divided by 2, and the camera's height divided by 2, and 0 for the Z, because the screen's like this. Screen's like this, and it doesn't, that's not a thing on the screen. And then we're going to create a new ray, and it's going to start at the screen. So this vector 3 is called point. So this ray is going to start at point, and it's going to originate from the camera. So it's basically just a ray cast. And so we do a ray cast hit, which is where we're going to create a hit detector that's off of the raycast. So if that raycast that's going out hits something, and if that thing that it hit is within the hit distance, which we said was going to be about 5, that's just whatever you make 5 in your game on the scale. But if it's within a certain range, then we're going to create an array of colliders, name it hit collider, and basically it's going to create an overlap sphere with the radius of 0.1, and it's going to originate at that hit point where that's hit, wherever hit collided with something at that point, it creates a sphere around it. And so since I wanted it to be pretty specific and pinpoint, the radius is only 0.01. So basically, it's very small. Creates a very small sphere, and it grabs any colliders within that sphere. And then it just determines the direction of it. Make sure you're actually facing the right direction. And then we're going to send a message to that collider that we ran into, and we'll send the operate message, and it doesn't require a receiver. And we do that because you could click on a game object that doesn't have a script in it that contains an operate function. And so basically by sending this message, we just say, hey, do the function that's called operate. And so if that game object holds a script that has a function called operate in it, then it'll do that operation. So this allows the character in game to activate the operate function in the scripts on other game objects. And that's all there really is to the ray shooter operator, basically. And so, like you can see, I'll explain in this one, which is also pretty vital to the game. just the pickup device. So this is a device script that has a function called operate in it. And so if you want an object in your scene to be able to be picked up, you're going to have the model in there, and you're going to put a collider on that object, and then you will then attach this script onto that object. That way, so whenever you shoot that raycast, the raycast collides with the collider. That's a part of this object, and it will say operate, and then this operate says there's a boolean that says if it's being held or not, and there's a game object that the variable name is any object, which should be the parent of this one, and I do that because basically this game object that has that name, any object, which should be the parent of this one, that's gonna become the parent. It's the collider. So I'll get there. So anyways, so whenever it operates, it's going to check to see if it's being held, which is going to be false the first time. And so if it's not already being picked up, then this game object is going to become the first person controller. So basically, you just find what you want to be the parent, which is the first person controller. In my scene, that's the name of that game object, and that's what I want to be made the parent. And I set it to this game object, and then you say this transform's parent is going to be this game object's transform. So which is this, which is that. So basically you say, hey, go find this game object and make it this object's parent if it's not being held. And then we're going to switch the value to that way, so it knows that it's now being held. And so now that you've picked up this device, it's like, well, how can I set it down? Well, you just click on that object again, and it checks to see if it's being held or not. And so if it is being held, which will be this one, then we're just going to say, hey, the parent's null, and we're going to say it's not being held anymore. So basically, it in the hierarchy, it takes it away from being the first person controller's child, and then it sets the logic back up to be the correct way. But as you can see, like, this is another device with this is another device that has an operate with it, and basically this is just like a light switch, so you can walk up to a light and click on it and turn it on, and then click on that light again and turn it off. And it's just the cool thing about that device operator is, as long as you have a function called operate in whatever it is, then you can call that function at runtime by shooting a ray out from your character. And that's basically how the whole game works. So I'll just explain the last overview in the next video, and we're almost done.